What's going on, everyone? Data Report here for datareport.info with the Sunday Pandemic Update video. We have no new COVID positives to report on today, and we have no new COVID outbreaks to report on today. But if you recall, yesterday there were four of them that I reported on. One at a Memorial Hospital in Lindsay, Ontario. There was one at a assisted living facility in Portland, Maine. That one we're going to watch carefully because Maine is not doing too well on the COVID front right now. And you're going to see that as we go into the video. COVID outbreak in Alaska's Capitol Hill, and there was one declared in Ontario at St. Joseph's Manor. Today I bring this to you. There was a massive surge in hospitalizations of babies and young kids due to COVID, recorded in the second year of the pandemic. This is in Canada, but it happened in other countries as well. It happened here in America. Get this, in the second year of the pandemic, hospitalizations due to COVID-19 skyrocketed more than 600% among children aged 0 to 4 compared to the previous year, according to new data from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. 600%. Get this, in 2020 to 2021, there were 325 hospitalizations of children in cohort due to COVID-19. But in 2021 to 2022, there were 2,315 hospitalizations of children aged 0 to 4 in Canada due to COVID-19, CIHI reports. That is very concerning. And if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, the big takeaway is, oh, kids can't get it bad. Kids can't spread COVID. Kids are fine. Kids don't need to be tested. Look what's happened here. As new variants emerged, kids became a bigger risk for COVID. So yes, kids do spread COVID. Kids can get COVID bad. Some were hospitalized. And here in the United States, we know some have died of COVID. And yet, here's the thing that doesn't make sense. The first year of the pandemic, they were preaching all that. And why they were preaching all that, they would say, oh, but kids should stay away from their grandparents. They shouldn't go see their loved ones. But wait a second. Kids don't spread COVID. Yes, kids did. They always did. And they still do. Kids are at risk too. And if you haven't got your child vaccinated yet, please do so. It's not going to completely stop the spread of COVID. But you know what? It's going to reduce the severity of your case. All right. Here you go. COVID shrank the restaurant industry. That's not changing anytime soon. And that's very true. Last year, there were about 631,000 restaurants in the United States, according to data from Techonomic, a restaurant research firm. That's roughly 72,000 fewer than in 2019, when there were 703,000 restaurants in the country. So yeah, this whole narrative that everything's back to normal, guess it's not, because look at this. There's still 72,000 restaurants less than there were before the pandemic. And if you want to talk about not being back to normal, well, just give yourself a Google search here of staffing shortages in the news. Look at this. VA police staff shortages leave medical center patients staff vulnerable for watchdog. LBPD officers begin working mandatory overtime. Staff shortage. Springfield Police Department 911 call center facing staffing shortages. Baltimore police facing staffing shortages. CVS and Walmart caught pharmacy hours closed some locations earlier because of staffing shortages. Nursing homes in small towns closing amid staffing shortages. I mean, I could go on and on for pages and pages. Some of these are a month old. Some of them are just a couple days ago. Here you go. Portland staff shortages drain morale. Look at this. Only 16 hours ago. It's just totally ridiculous. And to end on the thing, COVID not being over, I took this little snippet from the Philadelphia Inquirer. This was last week's Sunday paper. And yeah, someone put an opinion in there. The magnitude of COVID. During the week of February 6th, 3,475 people died from COVID-19 in the United States. Fewer Americans were killed in the 9/11 attack. You often hear that referenced on Twitter. Guess what? It's true. And if you read on here to the end of this article, which I didn't, but you can pause this video and read it if you want to, This person still wears a mask because guess what? The pandemic's not over. All right, moving on to the data side of things for today. Taking a look here at wastewater surveillance, you can see there's a few areas of concern. One being Utah, another being Nebraska. Look at Nebraska here. There's quite a few red areas in Nebraska. We still have our cluster of moderate to high transmission in the Great Lakes region. We still have our cluster around San Francisco. And then we have up here in Maine, which is really concerning me. Maine's positivity on Walgreens, which you'll see in a minute, is continuing to rise. You also have western New York. Though that's registering high, some of those wastewater sites, they are starting to drop. And our final clustering is down here in North Carolina. Also, Alabama. You know what? Alabama's concerning too. I'm just noticing this. Look at this watershed in Jefferson. It serves 77,000 people, and it's coming in as high. Here's another one. That's 95,000 people in Jefferson County high. So that's relatively concerning in the center of Alabama to see that many sites rising. All right, moving on to the community transmission map. 1,764 counties are in high transmission. 777 are in substantial. 502 are in moderate. 179 are in low transmission. The latest variants are XBB.1.5 is dominating at 85%, BQ.1.1 at 9.4%, BQ.1 at 2.6%, and XBB at 1.2%. New York State in the last 24 hours recorded 1,531 cases. The positivity is 3%. That is lower than the 7-day average yet again, which is 3.5%. So we're continuing to see New York State's positivity drop. That's good news. Latest hospitalizations and ICUs are 1,945 people in the hospital, 217 people in the ICU. Now we come over here to Walgreens. And today's national positivity is 31.7%. The prior week was 32.8%. Difference of 1.1% to 21,887 people have been tested versus 23,291 in the prior week. All right, you see 4 states that are really concerning here with bright red. First one being Maine. Maine's positivity is now at 42.1%. Yes, their testing's down, but you saw the wastewater. You know about the outbreak in the assisted living facility. We talked about it yesterday. We touched on it today. Maine is legitimately rising. Prior week was 28.4%. Their positivity is now up 13.7%. I don't care that testing is less. There is a legit problem going on in Maine, and we're going to watch this closely as the week goes on. And as we know, President's Day weekend was a big ski weekend in New England. Here's Vermont, 36.8% the current week, 28.6% the prior week, up 8.3%. Testing is higher than the previous week. 19 tests this week, 14 last week, small amounts, but hey, that's a legitimate rise. Here's another one that's concerning. Iowa, 33.5% this week, 23.6% last week, difference of 10% up. Arkansas, 36.6% this week, 26% last week. Difference of up 10.6%, 71 tests this week, 50 last week. That's 21 tests more than the previous week. Minnesota, 38.2% this week, 34% last week, up 4.2%. 414 tests this week, 509 tests last week. Yes, testing is down, but if you look at the chart here, it's been pretty much on a slow trajectory upwards, and eventually probably will hit that 40% mark, because the baseline each time is starting off higher than the last. Nevada, 33.8% this week, 31.4% last week, 2.3% increase, 397 tests this week, 369 tests last week. That's a legitimate rise. And now let's take a look at Georgia. Georgia, 28.5% this week, 27.7% last week. That is up by 0.8%, and we'll do a couple more here. Washington, 21.4% this week, 27.2% last week. That is down by 5.8%. And finally, ending on Oregon, 29.1% this week, 34.7% last week. That is down by 5.6%. So that's some good news for that state. But again, our troubling states are Vermont, Maine, Iowa, and Arkansas. We have to keep our eyes on them. And moving on here to now to the deaths. So far this week, it looks like the total is going to be 2,471 deaths this week versus the previous week, which was 2,869. So that is a decent size decrease, but hey, it's not good enough. We want to see the deaths drop even further than that. Finally, ending here on some international data. Germany cases are up 14%. Deaths are down 1%. Taiwan's down 12% on cases. Japan down 32%. Russia's now down 0.9% on cases and down 1% on deaths. Austria is up 13% on cases, and they are now up 20% on deaths. France here is up 11% on cases, down 6% on deaths. Austria is up 11% on cases, down 44% on deaths. Italy's up 28% on cases, down 46% on deaths. And finally, ending it here with Israel. Israel cases are up 12%. Deaths are up 17%. And the media is still not saying anything about Israel continuing to have cases, despite how much they really praised Israel for doing so well back in 2021 when the vaccines came out. Alrighty, that's it for today's pandemic update video. If you like the content that you see on my channel, or if you find it educational or informal to you, hit the like and subscribe button down below. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.